Welcome back to Project Brupeg. 6 years ago we brought a sun controller, which we've been rebuilding into a global expedition and research boat with the help of an amazing community from around the world.
Back in the galley, we have set up the air conditioner because it's stinking hot in here again. Today we are working on this wall. You saw the painting happen on this. It's all dried and we've turned this back into a storeroom, so we need the space. However, what we need to do today is basically get this end wall sorted with our stainless. So we have to get it to the same sort of stage as this with a panel bolted up to it. It's quite a bit of work to do behind the scenes on this one in order to get the panel on. The panel's the last thing that needs to happen. We have to solve what we're doing with this window here. We're definitely thinking about double glazing, but we also don't know how we're going to solve ventilation, so that's one challenge. We need to get wooden battens going up on all of these ribs. So you can see you got a 50mm rib that sticks out here, comes out from the wall. We've got to build that up 60mm, so put another 10 on top of this for the insulation. We're only doing one layer on this wall because we need the space. We've got too much stuff here. And we also need to run power, so cable trays need to go into this wall as well. So quite a bit of stuff that needs to happen. Oh, riv nuts as well. We need to put riv nuts in because that's what's bolting the wall on. So let's get into it. This window is going to be a bit of a challenge to get out because there's about 25 bolts around it every sort of, I don't know, 3 inches. There's a bolt, 8mm bolt. But we also use some adhesive. When we put it in, we basically put adhesive onto the big flat surface, press the bronze window frame into it, and then bolt it all the way around, tighten it up. That worked. Like, seriously, this window's not coming off. We have to now get the window off, so that's going to be fun. Okay, so I've just gone through and undone the nuts on the back of these bolts right the way around. From memory, there was 22 bolts per window that hold these things in, so there's no way that they were ever going to come loose. But the thing that's the most challenging is the adhesive. Like, it's on there like you wouldn't believe. So we're going to use things like this, like screwdrivers that have the shaft all the way through with a metal end on it. Wood chisels, all sorts of stuff to try and get in the corners and crack it off. I don't know what's going to work yet. We're just going to sort of get in there and just throw a few tools at it and see if we can get these to break off.
Hopefully we won't have to actually cut it.
But we will cut it if we need to get this damn thing out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're so beautiful. I'm sure someone will be able to use them. I need a heavier hammer.
Coming?
Yep.
Do you want the chisel as well?
The what?
Do you want the chisel as well? You're right.
I'll just, yeah, let's go. I don't think we need to do both sides. I think it'll just go.
Yeah,
you ready to catch?
Keep working around and I'll... Yeah, here we go. It's coming out. Actually, where's that big screwdriver? I might just... Yeah. Got the herbs.
Almost.
Close,
No, that's it.
Hold that. I did not expect this to happen today. Yeah, that's coming out.
That's it. I just need to do the top.
Yeah.
I know. If you pull, they might get there.
I think I'll be able to get it. Actually, that guy. Bolts.
Right.
Right. Go off with the chisel maybe.
Do what?
You've got to take the glue off with the chisel.
Yeah. It's almost good. Sorry? Cool. These windows, for me, I wanted to try and keep them because it was like this silly romantic thing inside my mind about having them open and going along the water and, you know. And I finally realised that romance and actually getting a mission like this done are kind of at odds with each other quite often.
And there's only so many romantic moments where you're cooking in the kitchen and lovely rolling green waves out the side, and then they roll down the cabin and into your kitchen and fill up the pots.
But I think it's about deciding what was more important.
Yeah.
You know, attachment to those one or two moments that I get to feel all nice and, you know,
Warm and fuzzy.
warm and fuzzy, or, you know, getting across an ocean or doing some serious projects, or you're having a team on board creating something really cool, you know. So I prioritised, I let go of the romance and got on with business. It felt bloody good actually. And that's what it's been ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they were good temporary windows. We needed something in here to lock the boat up and to keep it waterproof. So
The important thing being temporary.
I think Dave's been a bit pissed off about these windows for a while now.
I've only hated them for about 6 years. And at the first year it was fine. It's just after that I really started to smash my face into them.
I know, I don't know how many times we've hit our heads.
Well, it's clean enough to start anyway. So I just did the measurements, and the sheet starts there and finishes there. So it's 1,050 millimetres or 5 centimetres bigger than 1 metre, or 197 inches roughly.
You're being sarcastic again.
Yeah, you notice? 196 big millimetres.
You know, it's so humid in this room. We've got our little air conditioner punching as much cold air as it can in, but it's just too hot. And Dave, look, Dave's pouring with sweat, so am I. And the sarcasm goes up as the humidity goes up. This is something I have noticed. There's a direct correlation there.
That's the size of the stainless sheet. So we've got one piece that goes across this wall. Now, the issues that we have is obviously it doesn't go right down to the ground, so there's going to be a gap, but that's actually a bonus because I need to run electrics down here and plumbing and things like that, because our plumbing actually comes from up in the studio, which is other side of this bulkhead here.
Because there's a tank underneath, the water tank is underneath.
The two tanks are up front, down below up front, and we need to bring the piping up and then around here, so we'll deal with that later, but we also need to do our electrics. So cable trays need to go in. We're going to mount a cable tray nice and tight against that rib there, and that allows us to jam some insulation behind as well, which is a good thing. But it also means, because the stainless finish is here, it means that we can deal with the bottom end of the electrics later. I don't have to silt that out right now. So I've got to run cable trays across and do a bunch of other stuff, but that can all happen later.
So the insulation, you're going to have to cut into the insulation then, eh? Like wedge it in like that.
Yeah. And I might even have to do two pieces, like a join down there, so I can get that bit in first and then just push that bit in. I'm not sure yet. We'll just have to see. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to use riv nuts. I'm going to put a riv nut into these steel ribs because they're not really strong enough to drill and tap. They're only 2.5 mil wall thickness when they're new. No idea how thick this one is, probably slightly less. However, what I need to do is allow for these battens. So what I'll probably do is just freehand these guys. Okay, so 1, 2, 2. Let's just check that that works. Yep, that's good. So I'm going to leave basically timber and then a gap and then timber right the way down, and that allows the riv nut to be just put in there without any sort of having to factor in the timber or anything like that. We'll epoxy these so that they're well waterproof, and then we'll just adhesive them onto the steel rib just like that. They don't have to hold any weight. All they're doing is basically stopping the stainless from compressing in and going wobbly. So these are the battens cut to length, and this is just straight epoxy that I've thinned down. So you can use, there's lots of different products to basically paint your wood with epoxy so that you seal it up really well. However, some of them are pretty pricey, like $100 a litre pricey, and we find that epoxy thinned down about 30% works just as well. So that's what we do. I want bucket loads on the end grain of every bit of wood, so partly that's why I'm just dunking this straight in. That is definitely going to fall over. Podoink. Soak up, you monster. Right. When you thin your resin out like this, it does go quite runny, but for a first coat that's what you really want, because it soaks way up into this. And this is just pine, so it's crap wood, and we are making it marine suitable. And you guys. So I've made a cable tray, and you can sort of see at the end here I've done a little bit of a right angle curve, basically just notch it, bend it over, and that's going to press up into the roof and glue onto the roof like that, and then this side is going to glue onto the rib like so, and all of this is going to be behind steel that's bolted in. That's why I'm not too worried about it just being held with adhesive. A couple of people have mentioned we glue these to the roof, and a couple of people have mentioned they need to be mechanically fastened as well in case the boat catches on fire or you don't want cables crashing down and stopping people from getting out. Absolutely, and we pretty much glue everything just to hold it, and then we'll throw a couple of rivets as we go through. These ones we don't need to worry about that, because as I say, they're behind steel that's bolted, so these are never going to be able to come off regardless. Now, holding this in where I need it, like so, is very easy because I stick magnets on it. Building a steel boat, magnets. These guys here, neodymium magnets, they are so your friend. Some people may think that I like to go berserk when I'm gluing things in, and that is true. And I've also got some very strategically placed GoPro clamps, screwdrivers and magnets, and it's basically to stop it from gluing twisted in. It will probably bend in when I take all of those out, which is fine, I can jam insulation behind it, but I want it to basically glue in that position there. So let that set, and then that's done. We can move on to the other jobs.
Quite a slope, isn't it?
Yeah. Right, sheet cut to size. So it's trimmed to be nice, lovely, snug fit with this guy over here. And then we've got some polystyrene. We've just got a piece of just off cut. But what we're going to do is glue it, just a couple of dabs in here to hold it. And that's going to allow us, when we put the sheet in, to get the exact measurement that we need to make sure it's perfect. We're also going to glue our we're going to glue our 10mm battens in down all of these steel ribs right the way around. And what that's going to allow is to have that nice firm surface that we need when we push the stainless up against the wall, because we're going to go around and mark this. So we have to mark on the outside. So I'll hold it in nice and firm, and then Jess will jump on the outside, mark all the edges, and that gives us our location to cut the window out. Now this is pretty critical. We have to get this millimeter perfect all the way around. So on the inside between the stainless and this steel skin here, we're going to have a block of timber all the way around, so we have to make a frame right the way around. On the outside we're going to be bonding on 10mm toughened glass, so that's the survey requirement for boats of this size. For any forward facing glass it has to be 10mm or more, and it has to be toughened. We're going to be doing 10mm toughened on the outside, and if we do double glazing here, which is my preference, we have 6mm toughened on the inside. So pretty strong system that we've got. If one goes, we've got basically a backup on the inside. Now 6mm is not survey requirement, but then again neither is double glazing. You don't have to be double glazed. 6mm laminated, which is less strong than toughened, is what Brupeg used to have on the wheelhouse, right the way around the wheelhouse. and that lasted 40 odd years, and the boat went through 2 cyclones that we know of. So it's more than strong enough, but obviously survey, they bump it up a bit more, so it's 40% thicker glass for survey. So it's a pretty strong system that we're using.
I've said it many times, I know I would change my ways, I know for sure. When all the crows decide to meet, they settle down beneath my feet.
Right, so that is the shape that I need to knock out of the middle, and this is the frame that we need to keep. Now, there's going to be some tricks to this. It's double glazed, so this gets glued and screwed to the side of the boat, to the steelwork cabin, and there'll be a layer of adhesive all the way around, so that's going to act as a tiny thermal bridge, and then this will be epoxied and polyurethane and so on. However, I have to recess a track all the way around here that's a bigger size, which is what our internal windows will be, so the internal plane is sitting into this frame. That's what actually holds it. Now I need to put an in and an out valve type arrangement, because we're going to be filling these with argon. So some trickiness that needs to happen inside this. I don't actually know how we're going to do it. None of this is designed. As always, it's kind of coming out of a design as I go from my head. So let's see how it works out. I think we found the limit of what my little saw is happy to accept. The secret weapon. I don't know if this thing's going to work, but we bought a AEG cordless, just skin only, bought that. It's battery off my drill. Hopefully this is going to be enough to get around those corners. I was a bit worried about the width of the blade. It's quite a wide blade, but it's pretty much the narrowest we could find, and I don't know 100% if we're going to be able to do a nice lovely cut all the way around that edge. Why have we got no juice? I think my battery's flat. Definitely. But I think we also have a successful cut. Oh, you know what? My saw doesn't cut all the way through. That's not something that I expected. Right, one chopping block. Okay, how do we make that neat? Radiuses are something that has to happen everywhere on boats, and common sizes are something that you try to stick to. I reckon I know how they came up with this size. I reckon they had a 9-inch grinder just lying around next to this window when they were cutting it, and they thought, hey, I've got an idea. So I went pretty cautious on these lines. You can see I'm quite far in, maybe, I don't know, not quite half an inch, maybe, I don't know, 8mm, 10mm, something like that. But what I was nervous about is by using this, I was worried about it sort of wandering off like that and getting a stupid, weird angle going on that I don't want to deal with. I want to have a nice, straight, beautiful line. However, taking that much material back, I don't have a 1/2-inch router, so I can't do like a beautiful router cut all the way around. I have metalworking tools. So what I'm thinking is I might just go real gingerly and sort of trim this back with the saw, and then get in there. I've got a sander which I just had a go at on the drill. Oops, bang. I actually just had a sanding disc and had a go in there, and it's a 60 grit disc, so it's quite, well, it's not coarse, but it's medium coarse, and it takes it back quite fast, surprisingly fast. I thought it'd be a lot slower. So that's what I think I'll do, get relatively close and then just clean it up with the sander. Okay, let's have a go and see if that idea works. Yep, that's how we're doing it.
We thought you might like to see what they've been building in the shed at the back of the yard. It's a power cat, apparently it's their biggest yet. They had to wait for the next morning to get the tides to put it in.
My new plan, hack it down to within 1 millimetre, and then I'm thinking of going and getting a belt sander so that I can get nice long straight runs and also not damage the corners when I get to them with the sander. I have no idea if that's the right tool to use. Again, metalworker here, not a woodworker. I'm not used to this fiddly soft material. So we need to get these edges nice, flat, beautiful and lovely, and I've been using a tiny little drill to get these radius ones sanded off nicely, and then also a flapper on a grinder along here. Now that's kind of garbage because it doesn't leave it smooth and lovely. So I've gone and bought a belt sander, so I'm going to give that a shot. I've never actually used a belt sander before, so I don't know if it's the right tool to use. I think it probably is, but we'll give it a go, see how it works out. Crikey, you wouldn't want to go any bigger with that. It's going to be much more effective with power.
Don't you think it looks like a little angry tank?
Oh yes, I think we've found a winner. Lovely and straight. So you can sort of see what we're starting with, this kind of rough, manky sort of surface. And that's what it's coming up like. So beautiful, lovely, smooth. A couple of little imperfections over here that we've got to clean up, but that'll sand out. First time I've ever used it, so kind of learning how to use the machine as well. Right, I made a slight adjustment to a belt. This was 80 grit that came with it. I didn't know that. I've just dropped on the 36 grit, so let's see if we can chew a hole in this thing. Our previous troubles of not quite getting enough bite seems to have vanished. Corners have been ripped down, all the straights are now nice and smooth. I'm happy with how they turned out. So right the way around we've taken it down 36 grit. So if I fancy pants zoom in, kind of gives you an example of what sort of quality we got out of the 36 grit. So I'm going to go over now with the 120 and see if we can make that lovely and smooth. If I'm really honest, I'd be happy to epoxy that as is, mainly because it's going to get fed like smoothed and fed down and sanded off more so anyway. And I'm kind of actually wondering, leaving it rough like that with thinned down epoxy, I'm wondering if it'll soak in more. Yeah, anyway, I don't know. I'll sand this with 120 and see what it turns up like. It's probably going to turn up quite lovely, but yeah, just sort of pondering, maybe I could probably even just leave the next ones and then do the fairing side of it in the paint level.
It's worth taking a little bit of time figuring out how to do this because we've got 30 windows to double glaze on this boat.
Right, this is what it ended up like. So after a 120 sand, you can see there's a couple of high spots, but mostly it's sort of come up pretty smooth. Corners were the bits that I thought were going to be the hardest. They come up pretty nice. And then we've got really nice, smooth, lovely timber in there. That's basically perfectly flat. Can't feel any ridges whatsoever when you run your fingernail over that. So that's come up good. What I got to do now, trim up the outside obviously to make that just nice and tidy and so that it's going to look lovely in the wall. But I also need to start routering in a second, like a step. So come down here actually looking at, so all right, side on. This is the outside of the boat. This is going to be glued onto the side of the cabin. That's the outside of the cabin. And this is the inside of the boat where the stainless steel wall panel is going to fasten to. We've got a layer of glass that basically bonds to this side. It's on the outside of the steel, so 6 mil out, bonds about there. And then this side here, we've got a layer of glass that bonds onto this side, but I need to sink it into the window more. So it's probably going to be like about a 30 mil overlap that we have to deal with. So we'll use the router for that and chop that out, and then we can start getting this resined up. One of the challenges we have to deal with is I do not have a 1/2 inch shank router. I've only got this little 6 mil or 1/4 inch shank jobby. So I'm very, very limited in what I can do with the different bits. So this is not the right bit. It's definitely not deep enough and all the other stuff. But we're going to have to make it work. So what I plan to do is start the cut and just keep working my way down and then figure out a way of getting that router to kind of do what it was never designed to do, but what I need it to do anyway. The proper way to deal with this problem would be a 1/2 inch shank router. They're much, much stronger, so you can do a lot more stuff with the bit. You can have them deeper, wider, all sorts of stuff. We'll be able to go around with, you know, 1 or 2 cuts with a big, decent router like that. Don't have one. Yeah, I probably should get one, I think, actually, because they're something that I'll use over and over again, especially as we start doing more and more woodwork inside. Most of our tools are geared for metal, so it's kind of one of those things that we're starting to get into the woodwork side of the boat. Wood tools. Right, it's as far deep as we want to go. Righty, I've roughed it out, so I'm pretty happy with that. Like, I need to obviously use a few marks and stuff like this down around here where it's dug down a bit. I will go down a couple of mil deeper, and I will go in slightly. You can sort of see I haven't quite gone to the edge of that line most of the way around. That's probably a wee bit tight, but I need to just freehand around this area here, and then down these straights I've got to basically clamp up some wooden buzz down it. I came up with an idea. I don't have a fence, but I can make one. I have a clamp and some wood. See if it works. The fence needs to be taller. After a slight readjustment, I made a bigger one. Let's see if this works. The idea worked. So I've still got the downward dimples over here and things like that. What I'm actually going to do is fill those up. I've decided I don't want to go down any deeper, so I'm just going to fill those up and then go back over with the router and just clean those back up. But the idea of doing the fence thingy in a single spot on the inside worked brilliant. So apart from a couple of little bumps and hollows around the corner where I freehanded it earlier, this is all bang on. This is dead straight along there. That corner's nice. That's dead straight, and then that one there is pretty awesome too. So now we just need to drill some holes so I can get the argon in and the atmosphere out for our double glazing. Okay, what I need to do, this is the top. In fact, I probably should write that on because I'm gonna forget that at some point. Okay, what I need to do is make some valves to go in and out of this void that's going to be between the two panes of glass. We're going to be using argon as the gas that's going to be inside here. Now, there's a reason for that. It's basically the best gas to use when it comes to double glazing because it's the heaviest noble gas. There's a few other noble gases out there, but they probably are better than atmosphere, but they're not much better than atmosphere basically. You have to get rid of the moisture that's in between the two layers of glass, so you end up with condensation and so on. There's a couple of ways that you can do double glazing. You can basically use just dried air, so you dehumidify the crap out of the air and then just use atmosphere in there. That's one way. Another way is actually just having a hole at the bottom of the inside window, and probably one at the top I'm guessing, but basically it just allows the pressure to equalise and then any sort of extra humidity that's in between the layers to come out. So if you go to a colder environment, that can just basically make its way out over time and the condensation will disappear. It's not as good in terms of insulation because you can have a transfer of heat still. Essentially what you're trying to do is slow down any transfer of heat from the outside into the inside or vice versa. Argon is the best gas to use for that because it's as I say, the heaviest gas, therefore it does convection and so on, slower than any other gas. So that's what we're going to be using, and to do that we have to basically make a valve system so that we can get air out and argon in and then seal everything up. So I've never done that before, so this is going to be a bit of an experiment. How are we going to do this? Right, let's just drill straight in. What I'm thinking is drilling in the corner here on an angle like so, and then basically drilling a straight down to meet up with it, and that way I need to get it as high as I can get. So this is the top, and I need to get the hole as high as I can get to allow all the oxygen and everything, atmosphere, to come out. But I don't have a drill long enough to go all the way out the side, and I also don't really want to go all the way out the side. I want to come out here so that I can deal with it easy. So that's my plan, is basically drill down as far as I can and then meet up and go straight in. So I've got my depth gauge, another drill, slide that in. Kind of gives me my angle. And I'm going to go in on an angle because I don't think I've got enough depth basically. Right, with a bit of luck, I'm going to hit a hole. Lovely! That's what we wanted. Right, let's do that again on the bottom. That is definitely not very deep. Okay, not deep enough. Okay, drill about as far out of the chuck as I can get it. Okay, so we've got that angle and about that much depth. Okay, so nope, not yet. That must be close. Nope, still not. Lovely. Right, moon's up, sun's down. We're going to try and get some epoxy on this before nightfall. In Aussie you can do that because it's still stupid hot overnight. So yeah, let's see if we can race this out. Same deal as always, thin down epoxy. Pile it in because we want it in that end grain. And this will all get sanded back smooth later. Now, I want stack loads of epoxy in all of the holes and everything. So filling those guys up too. Done. Let's get the backside covered. When I let this dry, because I've got both sides painted, one side's going to stick to something. So I normally sit it on a bit of aluminium angle, something like that, so the point only is touching. I have seen things like nail boards where people put shitloads of nails through a board, sit it on something like that. But this surface is going against the wall, you'll never see it, so not too worried if you end up with a line or something, a blemish. Doesn't make any difference.
Oh, what a start. Inside out and upside down. No stress, I'ma clean up this mess like Alice. First hand me scissors.
Right, my plan is to get this thing up. Start getting the rib nuts on the other side. Hello, light. Bang. So I've got my bolt at the top, and I'm going to throw another one at this side here to get this part of the steel pinned against the batten. and then this bit's all sort of sticking out and being a bit wobbly. What I'll do is work my way across, and that'll get rid of any wobble and so on. I've got a piece of 60mm insulation sitting behind there, so when I push that in tight like that, it's sitting exactly where it should sit. There, go in about there, so there's about a 0.5mm, 1mm gap all the way down that edge there, which is going to get filled up with a sealant. So right now we just need to pin this side here. Lovely, that did fit. I always get worried when I'm measuring in and trying to do a blind hole and something like that, that I end up like drilling it too high or low, but I got it bang on, which that's definitely what I plan to do. That idea of drilling with the 13mm seems to be working, putting the bolts on seems to be working quite well. Right, so start us off like we're going to do. Done. Let's throw a tap down there. Well, we know it's going to fit because it's been up and down about 40 times. So we'll get rid of this for now because we need to start filling this wall up with things. Some of the things on the job list: insulation, sticking it all in the various bits. Put the window frame on, that's going to be pretty cool. And wiring. I'm not going to be able to get into this bit of wiring with this wall on, so I'm going to start running all the cables that I need for this area. I have, what have I got? 2 potential plugs that are going there. One under this side and one sort of out. This one over here is going to be buried. You're not going to see it or have access to it easily. It's going to be for the stovetop, little click, click, click thing on the gas stove. The one that's down here is going to be just a general purpose 10 amp 240 volt plug, so we can put vacuum cleaners or whatever in. I have no idea what we're going to use it for. Jess is making animal noises almost. We have to get this vent done, so I have to, in order to get that done, I have to fill up all of the different areas of here that needs to be insulated. We've got some foil insulation and some other polystyrene stuff that we use in there. And then we're going to glue the aluminium sheet on. Now, some people have talked about why don't we make this bolt on, bolt off, do a seal around it and then make the alloy bolt on. Once it's on, there's another stainless sheet that goes over top, so we're almost never going to access this thing, and if we do, it's only 1.6mm stainless or something like that. It's really, really thin, and we can just literally peel it off, and I think it's $35 for another one, so it's not worth the hassle of drilling and tapping and farting around with bolts. We just stick the thing on and then rip it off and replace it when we need to, if we ever need to. For now, get this done, we get the polystyrene in, we can throw that wall up, start working on the AC wall.
I've got it right and I got it wrong, but I learned my lesson hanging on. Come sit here.